Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much again for joining me here. Hope you've got a phenomenal day. We're taking a quick look here at a crypto market update regarding specific meme coins here as well, as of course Bitcoin is a foundation. If you don't know what Bitcoin's doing, you don't know really how to trade altcoins or meme coins. It's just the truth of it. You also want to know some fundamentals too here, whereas European Union will suspend its planned countermeasures to President Trump, essentially that were supposed to take effect this Thursday. So that delay, so to speak, that 6-month hiatus for trade talks is a very helpful thing. That's half the reason why we're seeing the price action for Bitcoin increase volume into its resistance. So just know that that's kind of where we're at there in the overall sense. Quickly to note with our crypto market update or overview, we have an outflow of net ETFs. That was on Friday, of course, when we had the fundamental catalyst with a bunch of Trump tweets just kind of wrecking the market for the weekend. However, since then, we've seen some pretty significant recovery here, whereas Fear and Greed Index is plateauing here, which is a good sign, kind of letting us know that people are buying these dips. And same thing with altcoins too. We got our altcoin season index increasing up from like the mid 30s from last week, with 1.47 trillion in market cap here so far today. So these are all some pretty good overperforming coins. Majority of these we're going to be covering here today. So we'll start with Bitcoin kind of as a foundation so you understand more specifically how things are looking here. As a matter of fact, we can look on our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord for some back-end liquidation data. I provided that earlier today. If you're not familiar, go ahead and jump on over to our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord and stay in the know, obviously. Take a look here at liquidation though. 116 to 118,000 is that upper range of liquidation. This is the last 7 days worth of trading. So we can see a lot of liquidation above the price. Liquidation short delta is quite high to the downside, implying there's still a lot of selling pressure. So even though we're back on track, so to speak, we haven't fully broken through that key level resistance at 115,300. Closing above that today, I think, would signal a pretty good sign, but we can see there's some open interest above us, more specifically the 116 and 118 ranges here. You can see that on the open interest, which is essentially just a reflection of where the market's at currently with resistance and support. So 116 to 118 is that next area of concentration. We're at 115 for Bitcoin. We're coming up to our 200-day SMA. We're below our 50, but also above our 20. We're seeing this transition happening, but we're also overextended leading into this resistance here. But the truth is, macro is still bullish. We've got some pretty good indications on the daily time frame, such as the 50-day SMA below the price, and more importantly here, the overall sentiment with this bullish type of flag pattern. Price action typically works itself into a descending channel and then takes off from there. So if we do retest this 118K range and we have volume to support it, distinct probability we continue higher up. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to our coins here of the day, kind of see where we're at, because these are coins that I feel are just worth covering. Some are good, some are bad, but for the most part, we're seeing some really good signs here, and we're going to talk about that. So starting with WIF Analysis, this is one of my favorite meme coins to trade. I'm not a meme coin super fanatic, but I can tell you this is the coin that's made some pretty big chunks here, and I still have an average position of 50 cents. If you saw some of my older videos there. So take a look here at liquidation and or open interest. Starting with open interest, 91 cents is that heavy concentration here locally, letting us know people are averaging the most in that area. So 91 cents, it's really close to where the price action's at. Solid chance we continue higher here with a bullish backtest of that previous high. We do see liquidation short delta is high though, keep that in mind. It's generally construed as a bearish sign. So you need to understand taking a long right now is higher risk than taking a short, even though it's tough to want to short into a breakout, right? But once more, breakout traders are fairly unsuccessful, just statistically. Anyways, $1 to 120 is that upper range of liquidation, so we might see that happen. But from a macro perspective here, we're still under the 50 and the 20-day SMA, generally unfavorable. We want to close above the 91, 92 cent range in order to have a good leg to stand on there. So from a macro perspective here, we haven't fully broken bullish at all. We're still under 50 on the RSI. Money flow index is still on its way down. So there's just more selling pressure than buying pressure. It's basically what it's telling us. And in general, taking a long into that is construed as a bad idea. So you make the call. What do you think on WIF? What are your thoughts? Are you long? Are you short? Where are you at? Take a look here at Doge. Dogecoin is an interesting one. This is actually one of my favorite charts here so far today. Let me talk about that. First of all, starting with the preface for our back-end open interest data, we can see roughly 21 cents is that open interest area here, but the heaviest concentration is at roughly 20 cents. I'm paraphrasing, it's 20.3, but 20 cents is that rough estimate of that heavy concentration where people are averaged the most. That's the deepest amount of interest. One thing I also like here is liquidation delta has shifted bullish. So it's probably hard to see, but there's a little bit of green here, letting us know that we've broken that barrier and there's now more longs than shorts. Usually you see a short squeeze occur when that happens because shorts are stubborn. They're going to keep adding to their position as the price goes higher. So obviously we want to pay attention to the correlation between this coin and Bitcoin, but generally speaking, there's more liquidation above the price. We have a shift in momentum here. These are all very good signs in the back end. Another very good sign is our previous high here, working as a previous high as well. Also now the new low. Now you could argue that the price came much lower than that level, which is very true. It just kind of hung out in this golden pocket range, but the likelihood of further upside is greater from here. Now that the fair value gap has mostly been filled and that extra area of liquidation from before, which we looked at last week, is all satisfied, okay? So at this point, I think you're better off taking a long versus a short with this coin. It's just a matter of how you want to average in. So the 20-cent range seems like a very practical consideration. So anywhere between 20 to 19 cents is a good area of consideration there. Okay, now once more, Bitcoin starts breaking bearish, you may want to cut your losses and call it, because we can still see further downside. Our macro point of control is at about 17 cents. So just keep that in mind. It's never a guarantee, but statistically, this coin does look a little bit more favorable to the upside. Take a look here next at BONK. Let's go ahead and jump in the back end data, kind of see where we're at here. On the right-hand side, we can look at open interest and just kind of understand there's a lot of people adding to their position in the current range here about, let's see, 2650 to 2680. Okay, so kind of that little area there holding fairly well as a resistance and or support. And I say that because we haven't truly broken above or below. We're just kind of consolidating there. But the truth is, in this direction here, we're working ourselves into a bullish type of rectangle, and the likelihood of breaking higher than lower is greater. You just got to recognize once more, as per usual, we're seeing more shorts than longs in this coin, and there's liquidation above the price, therefore reinforcing a breakout is inevitable. Now, we need to see higher volume for that to happen though. I'm not super convinced that this volume is enough to allow for us to punch through that resistance here. Good news is our previous high is tentatively working as a new low. We can see the candle wicks down to that 2400 range, solid amount of support there. That's definitely an area to consider averaging into your position. Once more, we have more confluence here with our golden pocket, as well as support and also moving averages. So there's multiple reasons there. In addition, we also got our point of control. The most amount of volume here in the last, 2 months worth of trading, we've seen the most amount of volume at that 2200 range. So 2200 to 2400 seems like a very practical place to consider averaging in if we see that again or that area is retested. So that's kind of where we're at there. Next one up here is Pudgy the Penguin. Let's take a look here. This one is very interesting. To touch on the backend data first, just so you kind of understand where we're at, there is a lot of open interest below the price. And that's usually a very favorable sign, okay? So just generally implying that 3,500 to 3,550 is that heavy support range here for us. We can see liquidation short delta still high. So therefore, increases the odds of short squeeze, but also increases the amount of concern here. In other words, you want to be careful taking a long against this much short liquidation. That's generally what it implies, because the shorts are in control right now is essentially what it tells us. We can see 38 to 4,200 is the upper range of liquidation. And if we look at the charts here, this is what's interesting and awesome for the most part. Again, at this point, previous high working as a new low. So you can see we spent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 7 days in that area, and then the price eventually broke and it came back down to retest that level. It's common in bullish types of trends, which this coin is still very bullish, to see that bounce off that level. The only thing I don't love is this amount of volume. While it's high compared to previous timeframes, it's still not quite as high as it needs to be able to maintain this level. So pay attention to volume. If it continues to dissipate, then we're more likely to lose this support, and that may become the new resistance. Okay, so still too early to tell, but for the most part at this point, Pudgy the Penguin and Dogecoin are the two that I have more, I would say more hope in, so to speak, or the likelihood of further upside is greater with those two coins, whereas BONK and WIF had kind of a 50-50 / slightly bearish on both of those. So I hope that made sense and I described that correctly. Make sure you check us out over at BitUnix too, folks. It's our recommended exchange for our community. No KYC or VPN required. You get a solid bonus right now for depositing, as well as your first trade bonus if you decide you want to become a new trader over there. Anyways, check them out. They've been awesome to us over the last 2 years. We've been using them for a long time. Hope you all have a good rest of your day. We'll see you in the next one. Take great care of yourself out there. Bye-bye.